Good morning. We are in Joshua chapter 3, verses 1 through 17 on page 70. And if you haven't read it, go ahead and pause the video and read it now. Here in Joshua chapter 3, we find a big demonstration of God's power in Joshua's life after Joshua is appointed leadership of the people of Israel. So what did it mean that the ark carried by the Levitical priest moved out first? Who was leading the people of Israel here? Well, if we get a little hint of this. It's the covenant of the Lord. The Lord was leading the people and leading Joshua. And what did Joshua tell the people to do before they headed out? He told them to consecrate themselves. And what do you think that means, to consecrate yourselves? Or maybe it's just declaring yourself sacred, offering sacrifices, putting yourself aside for the Lord's work, making yourself holy and acceptable in the presence of God. The instructions in the law are very specific. What it boils down to this is that Israel acknowledged God's holiness. They admitted any sin in their lives and asked God's forgiveness. That's what this consecration was. We no longer have to make sacrifices. We no longer have to follow the law because we live under grace. But something that we should take into our minds is the holiness of God. We should acknowledge and make aware of the holiness of God, because what that does is it also makes us aware of the sin and the barriers that we create in our own lives that can separate us from God. So we should be constantly seeking His forgiveness and repenting of our sin. According to verse 7, what would the crossing of the Jordan show the Israelites about Joshua? It would show the Israelites that God was with Joshua, that He blessed his leadership. What in your life shows that God is with you? Is it your walk with Him? Is it your testimony? What can people look at you and know that God is with you? Is there anything in your life that you're convicted to change throughout this process? What happened when the priest carrying the ark touched the water of the Jordan? We can see that the waters rose up. They stood up. And what part of the river was the ark and the priest with while the people passed through on the ground? Well, in the midst of the Jordan, we saw the waters rise up. This is a miracle that we saw before when Moses led the people out of Egypt. God was demonstrating His power and presence in Joshua's life. How is God's power and presence demonstrated in your life in the face of unbelievers, in the face of believers? Remember, your quiet time is not over until you share it with somebody else. God bless.